everyone. This is Ashna Gajria. I'm a third year medical student from FMBT Medical College, Nashik, and I'm serving as the EEC officer for AMSA Bioethics unit for this term, that is 22-23. I welcome you all and really am thankful to all of one and all present here for joining us for this debate competition and making this happen. So I would be hosting this event and I would like to introduce my co-host, that is Arfan. Arfan, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arfan. I am this year's internal events coordinator of Bioethics unit, AMSA. Thank you all for coming and making time for this event and making it a success. So I'll be giving it back to Ashna.
Okay, thank you so much, Arfan. And so I would like to hand it over to Samaya right now to introduce our judges to everybody. And also before that, I would request everybody to switch on their cameras with the template provided behind you as a template provided to you on the WhatsApp group. You would be using that as the virtual background. So,
hi, Ashna. Could you please wait for a minute or two because I'm waiting for Dr. Hansen to join
yes,
and she's
yes,
joining
yes.
from the UK. So
Yes, yes, yes. All right, that's all right.
let me know once she joins.
Yes, yes. So till the time we wait for our participants, I would request all the participants to introduce themselves with your name, your year of study, your college, as well as the organization you guys are representing. So I would like to nominate Ocean.
Hello everyone. So very good evening from Rishikesh. I'm Ocean Puri and I'm a final year medical student at All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Rishikesh. And today I will be representing AMSA India. So hope that all of us have a great debating session today.
Please nominate someone else so that they can introduce themselves and keep nominating as we go ahead.
Okay. So I'd rather not nominate my teammate because I know her very well. So I'd nominate Sheetal. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly.
Hi, yeah, you pronounced it right. Hello, everyone. I am Sheetal Tripathi from Bharati Vidyapeeth, a final year of BDS, and I am representing RC Caduceus.
Sheetal, could you nominate someone else too?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll nominate Harshita Umesh.
Hi, Ocean. That I guess I ended up faster here than you expected. Hey, everybody. My name is Harshita Umesh. I'm a final year MBBS student at Bangalore Medical College and Research Institute, and I'm representing AMSA India for this debate. I'm really looking forward to the arguments people are going to bring forward. I'll nominate Sakshi. Did I pronounce your name right?
So hi everyone, this is Sakshi Panzarkar. I am a third year medical student at Grand Government Medical College, Mumbai, and I'll be representing IMAMS in Maharashtra today for the debate. Thank you. So I'll nominate Yuvraj.
Hi, so I'm Yuvraj Singh. I'm a second year MBBS student at Rajiv Gandhi Medical College, Thane, and today I will be representing the RCMP. I would like to nominate Ria.
Hi, I'm Ria Kapoor. I'm from DIMC Mumbai and I'll be representing, I'm in the intern year. I'll be representing IMA MSN and I nominate Tanvi. Oh, sorry. Srishti.
Hi, thank you for nominating me. Hi, everyone. My name is Srishti Kalko. I am a third-year medical student from University College of Medical Sciences. I will be nominating my teammate Sneha.
Hi everyone, I am Sneha Paladi. I am an MBBS graduate, just graduated this year from MVJ Medical College, Bangalore, and we're representing IAGSE. I will be nominating, just a sec. Amit.
Hello, I am a MBBS Government Medical College Hospital, Lahore, and today I am representing the Rotary Club of Caduceus, and I am very much excited for the debate which is going to happen. So I would like to nominate Sejal Gupta.
So, hello everyone. My name is Sejal. I'm a second year medical student at Rajiv Gandhi Medical College, Thane, and I'll be representing RC Medicare today. And I think I'll nominate Kritika, if I pronounce the name correctly.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. I am Kritika and I'm a third year medical student from Assam Medical College. I'll be representing MSAI and I would like to Disha.
Yeah. Thanks, Kritika. Hi, everyone. I'm Disha Gandhi, and I'm a third year medical student at NHL Medical College, Ahmedabad, and I'm representing MSCI today, and I'm looking forward to this debate. I'll be nominating Ria, I guess, if she's left.
I've already spoken.
Okay, I really have no idea who's left. So if
I think Amit Singh can go next.
I'm done.
I think Tanvi is left. Tanvi, are you here? Okay,
Tanvi just sent a message that she's not participating.
Yeah, but you can always introduce yourself. That's all right.
Ashna, I'm sorry for interrupting, but Dr. Hansel is in. She's one of our judges, and I'd like to introduce her. So could I start?
Yes, Sumaya. Go ahead, Sumaya.
Okay. Dr. Hansel will be one of our judges today. So Dr. Hansel is one of the former House Medical Officer, Department of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery of Sir H.N. Reliance Hospital and Research Center. She completed her PG. She is currently pursuing a PG diploma in bioethics and human rights. She was a part of the organizing committee of bioethics in 2019 in Chennai. She was a presenter in a symposium in bioethics and ethics of caring alongside Dr. Russell D. Souza at Cyprus in 2017 at the 12th World Congress in Bioethics and Medical Ethics. She has featured in various interviews and videos from the Quint, Brat India, Official Humans of Bombay, Ara Health, and Rediff. She was the founder and head of Bioethics Wing at Medical Students Association of India. We are extremely honored to have Dr. Hansel as one of the judges here. And ma'am, could you please come ahead and speak a few words?
Hello, everyone. Dr. Hansel here. You can just call me Hansel. I don't like the ma'am business, so please don't call me ma'am. You can just call me Hansel. It's really nice to see all of you here because just a few years back, I was on the other side of the screen, in fact. But honestly, this is my first time being on an online debate. I really don't know how it works. So if I falter, please apologies in advance. But it's really nice to see because it's like I'm reliving my college days where we used to have symposiums and debates. So it's really nice. Just one thing before we start the debate, all of you, first of all, great job. It's good that you're participating in these activities. What I need to tell you is bioethics is much more than what you read in your books. Bioethics is a way of life. So now that it's been so many years that I'm into this department of bioethics, it's not that I know it all. I can make my mistakes too. In fact, when we actually practice in real life, now that I'm practicing, we see a lot of scenarios which are not covered in our textbooks. And senior doctors, junior doctors, everyone face these dilemmas where we don't know what to do. So as I said, at that moment, whatever feels right and whatever is in the best interest of our patient, that's what we do. Okay, so today you might come across certain things like for example, those who are in the for and against for the topic of eugenics. There are a lot of revelations. If you have delved very deep into this topic, you will understand that bioethicists themselves were responsible for the revolution of eugenics from Nazi Germany to America. Bioethicists were responsible for eugenics actually creeping into our medical healthcare system. So that, as I said, it's with every field, be it bioethics, be it any other field where a human being is involved, there are going to be flaws because a human being himself is flawed, right? So it comes down to the crux of it. It goes more into psychology and sociology and stuff like that. But that's the beauty of it. Medical healthcare is just not about books. It's just not about what you study. It's everything that that makes up a human being. So that's what I want to say. So this is a good fruitful debate which you can understand and delve into details of a topic, but don't let it change you, or don't let it make you form opinions of something. Yeah, so all the best, guys.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. And our other judge, Dr. Nidhi Bhatnagar, has also joined. So I'd like to begin with her introduction. Hello, Dr. Nidhi Bhatnagar. Dr. Nidhi Bhatnagar is an associate professor in the Department of Community Medicine at Maulana Azad Medical College. She has approximately 52 publications to her name. She specializes in teaching, training, and research on primary care, population health, and epidemiology. She was also a professor in community medicine at AFMC. She completed her PG from PGI Chandigarh. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming today and be present with us in this online debate. And thank you so much to both of you all for taking out time of your busy schedules for us. And AMSA India is extremely honored to have you both. Dr. Nidhi, could you please say a few words?
Thank you for inviting me as a judge, and it's my pleasure to be here with all of you. And it's so good to see bright young minds uh, working on such new topics, such emerging topics. And as a professor in public health or community medicine, I always try my students to have a perspective that goes beyond the four walls of hospital. So I want you all to think big, to have a perspective which improves the health of population, which makes very impactful policies in future. So to understand health as a whole, to understand the importance of holistic health, well-being, important decisions, so you really need to have your vision, and the topics you have chosen, the AMSA has chosen, are very nice, and I'm very eager to listen to all of you. Best of luck.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. And Arfat, could you go ahead and announce the rules of the debate?
Thank you.
Do you want me to switch on my video? What is the rule, like? I don't know. Or so should I switch it off and it's only the debaters who keep it on?
It's according to your comfort.
It will
To
be
be honest.
fine.
Okay.
Alfan, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be telling you the format of the debate. A total of 6 teams, A to F, will compete against each other. There will be about a total of 3 bouts for the 6 teams, conducted one after another. Each bout will be for 6 to 10 minutes. Opening statement will last for 1 minute. Question answers, which will be moderated by AMSA, will be for 2 minutes. Closing statements will be for 1 minute. Judges' questions can last till 2 to 5 minutes. The topics and teams for the rounds are as follows. The first topic is eugenics. Should humans interfere with natural selection? This is between team C and B. Second topic is organ donation. Is distributive justice possible? This is between team F and E. Third topic is DNR. Should it be legalized in India? This is between team D and A. 2 teams out of the 6 will be chosen by the judges based on the marks obtained as per the criteria that I shall be listing soon. And a final bout will follow with the above mentioned format. The topic for the finals is intellectual property rights. Should they be legalized and regulated? The judging criteria is judges are requested to maintain a scorecard for each team and score, and the team accordingly as per the marking scheme given below. First, each criteria is 10 marks. This is therefore there are 5 criteria. That is, it'll be a total of 50. First one is content. Second one is questions asked and answered during the rebuttal round. Third, adherence to the rules. Fourth, relevance to the topic. Fifth, answers to judges' questions. Judges may offer constructive feedback, commenting on the logical flaws, insufficient evidence, or the argument that the debaters may have overlooked. I shall pass this on to Ashna to continue.
Hi, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So good evening, everybody. So now I will be listing out certain rules of this debate competition, which everybody has to keep in mind, because one of your points criteria is also based on this. So firstly, all the competing teams and their teammates have to keep their camera on during the entire event, that is during their speech as well as the rebuttal rounds. Failure to do so will result in deduction of their marks. Secondly, You cannot reveal the organization's name you are representing at any point in time. And also, I would request that the judges and the moderator's decision will be the final. And I would not like anyone of y'all to argue on these decisions taken. And this, rest assured that these decisions will be fair and will have no bias at all. Secondly, once the timer will be on the screen. So once the time is up, there is no further extension allowed whatsoever is the case. And lastly, that I hope that all the teams are prepared for the final topic, because once we announce the results after the preliminary rounds, there will be a toss by which we will be deciding for and against. And after that, you will be given 10 minutes to prepare for the same, and the final round will take place. So I hope these rules are really clear in your mind, as well as the judging criteria. And if yes, then we can go ahead and start with our debate. So if any questions, please put it in the chat box. I'll give you a minute for that. Okay, so since we have no question, final round, yes, correct. The final round format will be the same as it is right now. And in case of connectivity loss, yes, it will be considered. It is a genuine reason. So definitely it will be considered. Okay. So if there are no further doubts, we can continue with the debate. Okay, so I would like to announce the first round, which is eugenics. Should humans interfere with natural selection? This is the topic, and the themes are Team C versus B. So I would like Team C to go for this first. And also, I would like to say that Team C is against for this topic. And Team B is for this topic. So Team C, I hope you all are ready. Please go ahead. Okay, so the first round is Team C versus B. Team C is against the topic. Team B is for the topic. I would request Team B to go first. Team B, are you ready?
Yeah, we are ready. So am I audible?
Yes, you are. I'll just say start, and then you can start. And I'll just say like warning, and you'll have like 10 seconds left for the opening statement.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yes, you can start now.
Yes, humans should interfere in with the natural selection provided that there are strict laws regulating and it is deemed medically necessary. The difference between those embracing and the criticizing the term is merely expressed where we all draw the boundary of what kinds of eugenic practices we allow. All human societies engage in variety of practices that are both widely accepted and plainly eugenic. For example, in the West, most pregnant women test for disorders such as Down syndrome, Huntington's, and cystic fibrosis. Many people choose to terminate the pregnancy that are likely to result in a genetic disorder or disability. It's not about eliminating the minorities from the society that was done earlier in the eugenics. It is more about getting a chance for the betterment of human life by decreasing the risk of congenital abnormalities and providing humans with the option of selecting what all they have desire to have in their children. And why not support this motion by being bound to ethics and legal issues and creating some boundaries around the same. Here we are not asking of socially eradicating the weaker sections of the society. Rather, we are focusing on empowering them by giving them the choices. Thank you.
Okay, the opening statement is done, Arfan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
The second
So
the second round can start. Yeah.
Yes, so the second round can start. So the opposing team, please ask them questions.
I would request my teammate Sneha to go ahead with the question, please.
Right. So my question is, so if we, by promoting eugenics, what does end up happening is we promote certain qualities which are the so-called desired qualities, which will result in a shallow gene pool. So in the future, if there is a threat, we would not be able to mutate accordingly due to the shallow gene pool that we have. So how would we combat that situation?
I would like my teammate Kritika to proceed with the answer.
Thank you for the question. So, like we have mentioned that eugenics, we are not when the term desirable trait comes into play, it's very subjective. So we've clearly mentioned that we are only in support of eugenics if it is deemed medically important. For example, suppose there is, let's say in a prenatal diagnosis, suppose there is a diagnosis of Down syndrome, so eugenics, we are only supporting eugenics in case in case any interventions could be made to decrease the risk of such congenital anomalies, and not completely alter the gene pool or alter any alter the desirable or undesirable traits in a person. So in regards to your question, I think it perfectly answers your question, because since there is no question of altering the gene pool simply based on subjective desirable traits, and only limiting it to medically necessary procedures and medically necessary traits, I think there wouldn't be a question, or there wouldn't be a situation where any risk of shallow gene pool shall come into play. So I think that answers your question. Thank you.
Any more
Yeah.
question?
I don't think they can ask another question because only
Yes.
4 seconds is left. We'll go on to the closing statements now.
Can I start?
Yeah. Please start. I'll just start with you. Start.
Okay. So the basic point that the opposition seems to be missing out here is that they're simply blurring the line between the proper use and the misuse of eugenics. What you need to understand is that the concept of liberal eugenics that we're supporting here today is worlds apart than what eugenics used to be decades ago. Today, we do not speak of eugenics based off of racial or political discrimination, but rather eugenics for the development, for the betterment, for change. For example, IVF, CRISPR, gene therapy, examples are all examples of eugenics. What you need to understand is that what happened during the past or what happened during World War II were very unfortunate events, but still using that as arguments to completely disregard the potential or the possibilities of eugenics, especially if eugenics is being regulated by strict set of laws, is just regression of evolution. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about completely disrupting the process of natural selection. What we are, however, emphasizing is simply aiding the vulnerable groups in standing on equal stands in the selection, and that is exactly why eugenics should be implied. Thank you.
Okay. Now we carry on to the next team's opening statement.
Right. Can I start? Am I audible?
Yeah.
All right. So eugenics, we know, is the science of using artificial selection to improve genetic features in the population. The thought of improving the human race by manipulating who is allowed to breed ethically crosses so many boundaries and has thus prevented this idea from going into worldwide effect. One of the most important arguments against eugenics is the loss of genetic diversity, which in turn leads to inbreeding depression due to the loss of genetic variation. Contemporary eugenics policies propose to permanently and artificially disrupt millions of years of human evolution, and they aim to create disease-free lines, which in turn have negative effects on the immunity and could have negative effects on species resilience. Also, with great power comes great responsibility. Though eugenics may begin with good intention, through incidents like the Holocaust in Germany, where the idea of a superior race and the obsession with selectively promoting certain traits led to the murder of millions, one can see how quickly this can go south. So while there is great potential to use this great power for good, we do not yet have the great responsibility that comes with it, which is why humans should not interfere with natural selection, at least not yet. Thank you.
I would like to start the Q&A. Before that, Arfan, could you please fix the timer?
Yeah, give me 2 minutes. I shall fix it.
Okay, till then, I think with this timer, we will continue with the Q&A. So it starts right now. The opposing team can ask the questions now.
Okay, I would like my teammate Disha to go ahead with the questions.
Okay, so I would like to ask that, like, do you support women opting for pregnancy through sperm donations? Should they have the right to choose and be informed about the genetic details of the donor and accordingly make a choice? If yes, isn't that eugenics? If no, isn't that a violation of their right to choice?
Thank you for your question. I would say yes, like you said, I would say that yes, the women should be informed. And like you said, yes, that is a form of eugenics, true. But like I mentioned quite clearly, that the problem is not eugenics in itself. The debate is about whether we are ready for humans to be interfering with natural selection. As things stand at the moment, we are not ready for it because the potential for abuse of this power is way too high. And that outweighs the potential for good right now. So unless we can figure out how to implement this without that great risk that is posed right now, no, humans should not be interfering with natural selection. Thank you.
So we move ahead with the closing statement. Please go ahead.
I'm so sorry, there was a delay in my internet connection. Please begin the timer as soon as I start speaking.
Yes.
Eugenicists worldwide believed that they could perfect human beings and eliminate social ills. But who would determine what is a social evil and what isn't? What is superior or what isn't? Ladies and gentlemen, in a world riddled with racism, greed, personal and political agendas, where big pharma and corporate scientists control how healthcare is accessed, we cannot deny that eugenics is susceptible to abuse because genetic selection criteria would determine by whichever group has the political power at that time. Even the International Bioethics Society sides with us on this front. Questions like how would we possibly regulate the science and keep all the biases away, and the implications for those who cannot and do not want to afford this technology are still unanswered, along with the emergence of various health concerns, reduction in immunity down the line, which are a real possibility for a science that bases itself on reducing them. Like we mentioned in our opening statement, eugenics is an old idea with a violent history. It did not garner support for a reason. In conclusion, would we be shaping a way to a more healthy and sustainable society, or just playing God with nature? Thank you.
Okay. Arfan, set the timer to the last one.
Okay.
So now I would request both our esteemed judges to ask questions to the respective teams. Team C was against and team B was for this topic. Hansel ma'am, could you go first?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so before I ask questions, I don't, is it okay if we extend the time a bit?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
It's all right, right? So
this topic of eugenics is very dear to me, in fact, because I'm currently researching a lot on it. And it's funny how something that started during Nazi Germany or even probably before has creeped into our medical healthcare system in ways which have been good and in ways which have been bad. But again, where do we draw the line? And who decides who draws the line? Okay, so just a few things before that. It's a common question to both the teams. This a very famous bioethicist, Emmanuel Ezekiel, who is also part of the Biden-Harris advisory for COVID-19. So he made this statement that a healthcare reform or a healthcare revolution is possible, and people are forced to adopt the so-called unthinkable only during crisis or a war. So, do you think the lack of knowledge and the lack of transparency? Now, this debate is conducted where both of the teams have knowledge about the field, but when it comes to the regular population who doesn't know what eugenics is, who doesn't know what happened in history, who doesn't know the current applications of eugenics in modern healthcare, how can they decide for themselves? And do you think this power of implementing eugenics into modern healthcare system should be by the stakeholders, by big pharmas, by doctors, or the power of autonomy of what happens to your body should be given to the people? It's a very fine line here. So my question is to both the teams here.
I think Team C can go first, and then Team B.
I'll just elaborate on the question a bit. See, for example, questions like, adding lithium to water can lead to a happier society, or a relief of a family from living a life with the burden of a child with a disability. So here, what defines happier? What defines relief? How are they measured? How are they compared? And these assumptions, can they be for a greater good? So where do we draw a line, and who should be the deciding factor of who draws the line, and what are the lines that need to be drawn?
Ma'am, if I may go first from Team C.
Yeah.
You asked previously whether or not a single agency, be it the government, be it a corporate, be it someone who forms the deciding factor, who is well advised and well informed about healthcare, be allowed to make decisions that that they think would be fruitful to the entire population, to the entire society. In my opinion, no. No single agency, no single government, no single set of experts, no matter how well informed and well researched they are, should be given the autonomy to choose for the entire population. Because one set of people's ideas, beliefs, where they grew up, the privilege that they grew up with, their perceptions, their way of life might not match the entire millions and billions of people that we have in our world. That would simply be causing the right to choose and the autonomy that we have over our body.
Okay, so Team B, my question to you is, if you've read the NEGM journal, where Dr. Ezekiel Emmanuel added age as a criteria while triaging COVID patients. Okay, and that was also adopted by the Canadian the Medical Association. So what do you have to say about that? Triaging, now see, for example, I'll give you my example. When I had COVID, I was, though I was not a 60-year-old patient, I didn't have any comorbidities. I was still admitted in the hospital, and it was for a duration of 10 days in the ICU. So again, I didn't fall into the conventional category of, being above the age of 60 and having all the score in the high risk group. So when these triaging, guidelines are made, a bioethicist makes a guideline. A bioethicist is again not a public, it's not a community health professor or someone in the public health field. It's a bioethicist who makes this guideline, which is adopted by the Canadian Medical Association, that age should be a criteria for triaging patients. So probably a patient who is young is given more preference over a patient who's old. But then isn't that a violation of autonomy and beneficence and the basic principles of bioethics? So that's my question to you.
Thank you for the question, ma'am. I would like to go for it. So, in case of emergencies and in case of pandemics, which are not a normal situation, there are certain sorts of altercations that needs to be made. In this case, I do not think that it is a violation of autonomy or any of the other pillars of bioethics, because in a case of in a situation such as the pandemic, which is a case of mass casualty, you would have to look for the greater good of the society at large and not just individual parties of the society. So there were a lot of factors that comes into play when you give a preference to say someone from the younger age group than that from the older age group. So no, I do not in any had it been a normal situation, perhaps there might have been certain violations. But given that it was an emergency situation, given that it was an abnormal situation, I think there are certain exceptions that are to be made, and this was one of them.
Thank you. I can hand it over to Nidhi ma'am right now. Thank you. I'm done with my questions. Thank you, Team B, and thank you, Team C.
Yes, so probably both the teams did very well, and both the teams emphasized on the policy and regulations part. So my question to both is, what approach should you adopt to regulate eugenics? Because probably as per me, if you take my opinion, this is something which is which cannot be escaped. Eugenics will enter into our society, will enter healthcare in some or the other form. And what, like, I don't want to take any stand for or against, but it will come, good or bad. No comments on that. And especially there's one approach to eugenics, that is the concept of transhumanism, an augmented human. So you're now with increasing digitalization and technology taking up a big role, artificial intelligence coming up, so eugenics has some window in that part also, is encouraged because of that also. So definitely policy and regulations are needed. Now you just answer me, what approach, where will you target? What part of like which audience will you target, or which approach you want to take for the policy part or the regulations part?
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. If I could go for it.
Yes, please go for it.
So, like ma'am said, yes, it's true that in the
there is one request. If you please tell your team numbers also before you start, because it gets confusing. Okay.
So from team C. So yes, like ma'am said, it is almost inevitable that at least some form of eugenics will percolate in the near future or after that. So as far as regulation is concerned and the policies that need to be in place, I strongly believe an important factor would be that the decision-making capabilities, the power should not be in the hands of a select few. It should be first off, it should be in the hands of the person who's making the choice, whose life is involved. But also we should have multiple fail safes over different levels of authority as well, so that it doesn't become such that some people benefit for it, and so for their own personal needs end up promoting it, and it becomes biased. So the important thing, I believe, is that we should have multiple levels of regulations, as well as there should be multiple policymakers from different fields involved, so that there is an equal say and all the power doesn't rest with a select few individuals.
That's a good point.
Okay, this was team C.
Yes, this was team C.
Any comments from team B?
Yes. I would like to take this question. On this context, I do agree with Team C that there shouldn't be a select few making the decision, and there should be different layers of policymakers. However, another aspect that I would like to throw in out here is that the decision making in this case should be similar to that of rights related to abortion. Just as when a woman goes out to seek for abortion rights, there are certain different tiers, and there is a medical board, there is a judiciary board, there are different other organizations, and there is, of course, the sole decision lies with the a patient themselves. So eugenics in this case, when required or when termed as medically necessary, should also follow a similar trend where there should be multiple parties giving in their opinion, and the final decision should rest on what the majority of the population, like majority of the parties involved, decides. So that is what I would like to put forward in this regard. Thank you.
Very nice.
Okay, thank you. That's it. No questions.
Thank you so much, Team B and Team C. You've done a really good job.
Thanks a lot, Team B and C. So now we'll be moving forward to the next bout. That is the second bout, and we are changing the format a bit so that the judges, it becomes easier for the judges. So it will be as how it has been on the mentioned on the screen, wherein one team will go ahead with the opening statement, and then the next team will go ahead with the opening statement. Further to that, there'll be a Q&A session from team one side, then from the next team, and then both the teams give their conclusive statements. And after that, we have the judges' questions for both the teams. So I would like to begin with the second round. The topic for this is organ donation. Is distributive justice possible? The team for this is Team F versus Team E. Team F is against for the topic and Team E is for the topic. So I would request Team E to go ahead and start with their opening statement. And I would request Arfan to start the timer once they start speaking.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just lost you for a minute there. So who's for and who's against?
Yes, ma'am. So Team F is against and Team E is for.
Team F and Team E are the teams, right?
Yes, and Team F is going to go against, Team E is for.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, before we start, I just wanted to announce that we also have a certificate for the best speaker. So I would request the judges to also make a considerable note of that. Thank you. If the team is ready, can they just say they're ready so I can start the timer?
Yes, Team E goes first.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Shall I start?
You start, I'll start the timer.
As Speaker 1 of Team E, it is my duty to open this debate with defining what distributive justice really means. According to S. Fleischaker, the term distributive justice refers to fair, equitable, and appropriate distribution of benefits and burdens determined by norms that structure the terms of social cooperation. When organ donations are on a new low, countries like USA and India have been differentiating between recipients on the basis of nationality. Is the worth of the life of an Indian not equal to the worth of a life of a Palestinian? Scarcity of organs coupled with the value of every single human life brings us to address the most important pressing point that distributive justice should be the criteria for organ allocation. In all, working for a fair and equitable justice system is possible only with renewed efforts of both the government as well as the people themselves. Thank you.
Team F, go ahead with your opening statement.
Okay, so I would like to highlight more on this topic. So there are three debates or like three arguments which this topic basically has. So first is preceding medical success is difficult because a successful outcome can vary. So is the success the number of years a patient lives after a transplant, or is the success of the number of years a transplanted organ functions? So this is one of the topic which is added to the point. And the second argument is that maximum benefit distribution is that distributing organs in the way could leave the door open for bias, lying, favorism, and other unfair practices, more so than other forms of distribution due to subjective nature of this criteria. The third argument here is some ethicists argue that against using age and maximizing life years as a criteria for distributing organs because it devalues the remaining life of an older person waiting for a transplant. Regardless of how old someone is, if that person does not receive a transplant, they will be still losing the rest of his or her life, which is valuable to everyone.
Thank you so much, Team F. So now I would request Team F to question Team E.
Okay, so my first question here is, should someone who has received one organ transplant to be given a second transplant, or should people who have not had a transplant be given priority over those who already have one?
I would like to answer this question. So basically, according to the principle of distributive justice, if someone has already had a transplant, we proceed if a second transplant could be potentially saving for the person. If not, then that organ would be allotted to someone who has never had a transplant. So according to distributive justice, every person will get a chance at getting an organ, but it is dependent on certain factors, which are including age, which is also including the critical condition, that is the sickness of the person. It also includes the geographical location as well, but which according to the distributive justice, it proves that wrong, because that is essentially the criteria which this thing is being based on these days. But it is very wrong, because you cannot decide the worth of a human life like that. So distributive justice says that seeing all other criteria like sickness, age, and all other possible criteria, you will allot the organ that.
Is there any other question that would you like to ask?
Yeah. So I would like to add one more question. Should people whose lifestyle choices like smoking, drinking, drug use, obesity damage their organ be given a chance at an organ transplant? And I also would like to add one more question to this. Should people who can't afford expensive anti-rejection drugs be passed over for a transplant? And should people who don't have an insurance, like people who can't pay for an insurance for a transplant, be allowed to go on the waiting list, or should allowed to go on a transplant?
So I may answer this. Okay, I think my teammate can answer this question.
So I would like to answer your question, what the opponents has asked from me. So first, basically, I would like to reiterate something that the distributed justice, if we talk about, it talks basics on two basic principles, that is equity and utility. So if the patient has survival rate, if the patient has utilitarian value, then it's a good cause. So
I'm sorry, I'll
distributed
have to
justice
stop
is
you.
basically.
The time is up. It is your team's chance to question the other team now. So you guys can go ahead. And the moment you start, I'll start the timer.
I would like to ask a question to Team F. So basically, you stated in your opening argument 3 points related to sickness, to age also. Am I right? So these are basically against the principle of distributive justice. So, and these as well are criteria that may bring a potential element of bias in our system. According to many general public surveys, people would rather have a fair and equitable justice system rather basing it on such criteria. So, do you think that these criteria should exist and should, because they devalue the very worth of human life that we are talking about here today?
Okay, so I would like to answer this question. So, am I audible?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to answer this question. It is necessary that some centralized rules should be there, but as in my argument is like who decides? So there is a very thin line, as in a surgeon decides, or whether there's a judge in a courtroom who decides like which organ has to be distributed, or what is the distribution, because there's a lot of people who are waiting to get a transplant. So as now we are having a debate, so our bout is on an average of 14 minutes, or one more might have been added to the list waiting for the transplant. So I think if there is some rule which decides, so there's a lot of bias, like who decides? A surgeon decides, a lawyer decides, a judge decides. So there's a lot of bias to that.
Can I just comment on this if like I have a permission, like a question regarding to this?
You have 14 seconds. If both of you can go ahead with that, then I can give you the 14 seconds.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you just now, reiterated the fact again that there are biases in the system. So that is what distributive justice wants to eliminate, and that is what we are discussing at hand. So how could you actually say that? Like, what do you want to say through that?
Okay, can I answer for this one?
The time is up, unfortunately. So the for team can give their conclusion. I'll start 4 seconds
Okay.
late since the timer
Am I
extended.
audible?
Yes.
So, till now, there has been no country to enable an equitable and fair system to ensure distributive justice. I would like to reiterate my colleague's point that the only cooperation between the administration and the citizens can help to bring about a change in organ allocation system. The establishment of discrimination criteria negate the principle of distributive justice because there are individuals who, regardless of their place on the waiting list, will be turned away. To encourage equality in organ transplantation, the equal access theory encourages a distribution process for transplanted organs that is free of biases like race, sex, income of family, and geographic location. For a more ethical, appropriate system, awareness about organ donation system should be spread more to the public, and public opinion should be incorporated as general health public service states for it. Moreover, the philosophy of distributive justice affirms equity and fairness, equally allocates burdens and benefits among humanity.
Is the other team ready with their conclusion?
Yes, may we start?
Yeah. Start and I'll start.
Yes. Okay, so although distributive justice does formulate a lot of rules, again, as in how the organ is supposed to be distributed and to whom it should be allocated, but there are a few rules in the list itself, I had read one which said that it works on first come first serve basis, and a lot of other rules like that. The organ goes to the youngest, or there are preset. There are preset values as in whom the organ should go to, and I feel that every case is personalized, so we cannot say that if the person comes first, the person should get the organ first. So that is what I want to say, that there shouldn't be any preset rules. There shouldn't be any, there should be rules, but they should not have a preset value, as in it goes either to this or to that. Every case is different, every case is personalized, so it should be evaluated accordingly.
Thank you. Now is the judges round question. The judges may ask their questions and I'll start the time.
Nidhi ma'am, do you want to go first?
Yes. So my question to both the teams is that when we talk about distributive justice, one thing which the teams didn't discuss, and I want your opinion on that, and that is what does distributive justice have any role on what value the beneficiary quotes for the healthcare or for the quality of care? To explain this further, like if some patient wants a liver transplant and he is willing to pay for that, and he attaches very high value to his life, remaining years of life, and on the other hand you have another person who is more eligible for the transplant, is younger, is more likely to have good quality of life after receiving the transplant, but because of many other reasons he doesn't attach value to his life and he's not ready to pay for the transplant. What is your take on that, both the teams? I hope you understand my question. It's more related to willingness to pay for organ donation and attaching value of a value to the transplant received. Okay.
Ma'am, may I answer this question? Give an attempt. I am from Team F. And ma'am, at the end, what I believe is it is all about attaching value to your life. It is about the receiver. If the receiver is actually willing to accept the organ, and that should not, according to me, that should not be based on monetary status. As in, if the patient, it is now this has two aspects. Is the patient is actually willing to accept the organ, or is the patient not able to accept the organ because of his financial condition? So in like if the patient is not able to accept the organ because of he can't pay, he's not able to pay, so then it should be discussed further, and there should be some middle grounds that should be brought, because the organ has a better prognosis with that person, and that is how we'll be using the organ to its most. And if the patient is not willing to accept the organ as a whole, as in he is not willing to live longer, or there is some he has some societal aspect associated with him, or something, some attempts in the last, so then obviously the patient who is willing to accept the organ should get the organ.
Thank you for your question, ma'am. I would like to go for team E. As of for your question, ma'am, the principles of
This is team E, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So the principles quotes advocates for utility of a patient. So if a person, in spite of giving a high income, but for organ transplant, but a patient who is having a high utility, that is a utilitarianism theory, having with a higher survival good chance, then the equity should be considered, and that particular patient should be advocated. Moreover, as of for financial conditions, like there are NGOs to support for the monetary help for the person.
I want to make it clear here. It is not that it is the willingness to pay and attaching value. So definitely, like financial part is a different thing. Yes, you can, you have NGOs, you have other financing and monetary mechanisms. But if the person is not ready to pay and is not attaching value, it's not just financial. It is more of like if you are willing to pay and you are attaching value to it. So if you're not or you're not attaching value to it, so then how would that affect the distributive justice, or should it affect distributive justice?
Ma'am, may I answer this question? Thank you for your question. So, ma'am, above distributive justice, there is this principle of autonomy and consent.
Team name once.
I'm representing Team E. Ma'am, so the principle of autonomy and consent comes to comes to play here. If the second person is there, he doesn't attach any importance to his life, and he's not willing to accept an organ here, then the principle of autonomy, he's basically not giving a consent to accept this organ. So accordingly, this organ will go to the person who is willing to accept this. I think, ma'am, according to us, that would be the most ethical thing to do in this case.
Can I pitch in here? I'm sorry, ma'am.
No, sure, sure. Most welcome.
Yes. So, Team E Sejal, you're trying to say that since he's not, see, because ma'am's question, what I assume is that one person can afford and he's willing to pay the amount, and the other person is hesitant, right? So his hesitancy is taken for him not giving.
Just 1 second. I'll just try to clarify this question in a bit different way also. See, it's not
Yes, ma'am.
just willingness to pay. It is not just limited to finances. It is not just limited to how much value. It's a new procedure. Many people are having their reservations. They don't want to go ahead with it.
Right,
They don't have
right.
finances is just a very small part. Then you have a long treatment process. It's a risk involved. It's the immunosuppression that goes after that. You're susceptible to several infections. So how much the person is open and ready to take risk, and how much he's attaching value that my life will improve after the transplant and after the organ donation. Now, this is a very important factor to be considered in this distributive justice. So my question is now, I think she can pitch in. I made it more clear. Yes, you can go ahead now.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, first of all, it is the duty of the healthcare professional or the transplantation associate, which is present in every hospital, to talk to the patient, to counsel him about the procedure, to tell him about the benefits, the requisites, the risks that are involved in it, and to increase his knowledge. Basically, I wanted to say that this procedure, that this decision is, or it would be solely made by the patient, but obviously the healthcare professional would guide him in this process. He would tell him this, yes, he would try to counsel him, and even after that, he doesn't want to undergo an organ transplantation. Then only it would be considered that the organ can be given to the other person who is willing, provided that the risk factors are the same.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Actually, even I had a similar question. What if the patient is in a gray zone where he's indecisive about it because, again, he probably doesn't know how the treatment is going to last, how long is it going to last, and how will he be able to take it? So those personal factors come into. So yes, thank you so much, Team E and Team F.
I would like to take this further. Can I?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the question is like, so the distributive justice gives a criteria, as in the organ should go to which, like I am representing Team F. So the distributive justice would prove the ground of autonomy. Means what if the organ is given to the person who is willing to accept, but if the person is willing from the will, but what if his immune system rejects the organ? So there are cases of hyperacute graft rejections and a lot of this. So, and no surgeon in this world can predict. So had it been given to the person who has confusions regarding the process, so if a person has confusion regarding the process can be very well explained to him in detail by not one surgeon, by second opinion, by a third opinion. But if the organ had it been given to the other person, so it might have added more life or more value to that if there had been no criteria of.
May I answer this question if I have some time?
There is 4 seconds left. I don't think you can, but if the judges allow, I'll let the time go.
You should allow, because we spoke for quite a long time. They have the right
Yeah.
answer. Yes.
I don't mind to. Yes, yes.
It's okay.
Thank you for your permission, ma'am. So basically, I think your concept about what distributive justice actually advocates is a little bit wrong. So what what I was trying to say is, or distributive justice here actually means that everyone is getting an equal chance at getting this organ. And obviously everyone will see the risk factors as well in giving an organ. That is the system that has been going on. What distributive justice actually advocates for is everyone should get a chance, irrespective of age, irrespective of geographical distribution or nationality or any such factor that can bring a bias in allocating something that is surely a very life-giving process. Also, also if the patient is confused, he's not really sure about the procedure, then no one can actually allot him an organ, because if after counseling, even after taking a second opinion and a third opinion, he is not sure and still is not ready to accept it, then actually like providing him actually doing an organ transplantation procedure is directly a violation of his right of autonomy. So I think that's what I actually want to say. Thank you.
Okay, before we start begin with the next round, I have a request for the judges. So Nidhi ma'am and Hensel ma'am, the first round was conducted in a different format, and henceforth we are conducting 2 rounds in the different formats. So the first round team feel that it has been really unfair for them because the second team got to counteract the first team. So could you please consider this point while giving them the marks? That there was a bit of glitch from the host side.
Yes,
We're really
yes.
sorry about that.
No
Yes,
problem. No problem.
thank you so much, ma'am. And I hope it is now the concerns of the opposing team of the first round have been resolved. If any further doubts, you can always contact us. So let us go with the third bout. Okay, so now the topic for the third bout is DNR. Should it be legalized in India? It is the teams competing for this is Team B versus Team A. Team D is against this topic and Team A is for this topic. So I would request Team A to begin with the opening statement. And
Am I
Arfan, please
audible?
look. Yes, you're audible.
Aren't we surprised that today we have to defend legalization of DNR in a country where the number of deaths due to limited healthcare resources outnumbers deaths due to diseases? And that too, against my worthy opponents who happen to be medical students who surely won't deny that many patients in India visit the hospital in pain and terminal stages. Good evening to one and all. Today, we, Team A, are here to defend patient autonomy and justice, to defend fundamental human right to die with dignity, to defend the 9 March 2018 verdict of the Honorable Supreme Court, and to defend justified use of healthcare resources, or in simple words, defend legalization of DNR in India. I would request my worthy opponents to answer, do you want to die? The answer to this question is where the need for legalization of DNR lies. Someone willing to give up something people do anything in their power to preserve must not be fooling around. You might oppose religion or pain as reasons to consider DNR, but you can't overlook the same reason is strong enough for him to face something he has feared for a lifetime. Thank you.
I would request Team D to proceed with the opening statement.
Hi, so am I audible? Is I'm properly
Yes,
clear?
you're audible.
Yes,
Yeah,
you are.
okay. So thank you. I'll begin with my statement now. So, in 1960, the power of Asclepius, the Greek demigod of medicine, who was said to bring dead people back to life, seemed to have rematerialized, that is, in the form of CPR. But there's also a modern day Zeus, that is DNR. As for India, advanced directive include DNR has no legal sanctity. Now, the question arises, why shouldn't DNR be legal in India? A major issue contributing to this fact is the educational setback and the lack of awareness in the majority of Indian population. One of the crucial factors affecting the implementation of DNR is patient and public understanding of its concept. And it might be difficult for the patient to understand what DNR means and what is it meant for. This can mislead the patient, making rational use of DNR difficult. As we can understand that communication is foundation of this procedure, and hence the language barrier being yet another long suffered issue creates great difficulty in conduct of DNR. As for the doctor's part, their understanding and proper implementation of DNR is the key to its regulation, which will in turn depend on intensive training of the doctor and major changes in medical curriculum, which will be labor intensive, cumbersome, and a long set call. So here I come to end with my statement. Thank you.
So I would request Team D to go ahead and ask Team A the questions. We're moving on to the question answer round. So Team D, go ahead with your questions for Team A.
Yeah, I would like to go on with the first question for the other team. That is, how are we going to plan to categorize patients who are to be allowed to take DNR, also taking in consideration that India being in state of low stationary? Wouldn't it allowing DNR proceed India towards declining state? And also that as other team might said that CPR might lead to other abnormalities in the severe critically ill patient, and again making it difficult for them to survive. So how are we considering CPR to be a totally successful measure rather than going towards facts that it has only 20% success rate? So thank you.
Thank you, Sakshi, for your question. I would like to answer it. You've made a really beautiful point that CPR is not entirely successful, that it is 20% of success rate. And bringing into the part where you say there's an educational setback and a language barrier, I would like to pinpoint the aspect that in our cultural media and everything, it's very apparent that DNR is actually misled. And the interpretation shows that, it's widely possible. So what we're trying to say over here is we want to legalize and protect the patient's autonomy to choose whether they want to have DNR or not. And by legalizing it, what we are saying is that, laws would be put into place to ensure that their rights as a human is protected. Because where does DNR actually fall? DNR falls with the patient's autonomy and with the right to distributive justice and social justice as well, right? So when we talk about that, we're trying to cover the gaps, and we're trying to understand that this educational setback would also come into picture over there. Yes, while it would take time, it is a step in the right direction. And you mentioned that there's no legal sanctity. The Supreme Court ruling does hold legal sanctity for a while because there is precedence, but at the same time, until it's brought into legislation, it can still be further contested. Thank you.
I'll just add one small line to the answer from Team A. Just one small sentence. Addressing the fact that we have been questioned on how to categorize who should be allowed to DNR or not. So I would request my worthy opponents to read through the legislations of DNR once again, because it clearly mentions that people who are mentally sane on mental assessment by a mental health professional have the right to decide for their DNR. So I believe that the categorization
to add on to it,
done.
The time is up. I would request Team A to ask questions to Team D.
Thank you. So I'll ask my first question to Team D. So in your opening statement, you mentioned that educational setback, patient and public point of view are the reasons due to which DNR should not be legalized because they don't have a proper understanding of it. Can you say that because of one proportion of the country's population not having that much of an educational understanding of DNR, those who have the right, those who can think for their life, should also be not given the right to end their lives or to not take further healthcare via DNR? This same question also comes when it comes to voting for selection of the government in our country. A huge population votes based on last-minute incentives that are given to them. Should their voting rights also be taken away? I would like Team D to throw some light on this.
Yeah, so I would like to go ahead with the answer. So as to clarify the first option, that only a major means on the basis of education. So majority of the terminally ill patient category includes the older population. And as we all know that India's older population is not that much literate as compared to the present young population. Also, the choice option that who means other minor category should not be allowed the option of DNR. There are other available options for these people as well, like living will, Dama, and other options that they can opt for and be peacefully at rest. Okay, and also uh, and also the categorizing aspect, like it also affects the beneficence aspect of the doctor, to which limit shall they consider the patient autonomy when their role as a doctor to compel to beneficence and do as much as possible to benefit that patient, considering the situation of the patient also comes in the role. So that is what I would like to say. Thank you.
Time is up. I don't think there's any more time for the further questions. So now I would like Team A to go with their conclusion statement.
Thank you. The DNR order does not mean patient will die alone and uncared. It means patient will be placed under hospice care when the end is near and will not die with the tube in any side of the body. The appropriate use of DNR orders with adequate palliative and end-of-life care can minimize the suffering for many dying patients who develop cardiac arrest. As currently implemented, they fail to adequately fulfill the two intended purposes: to support patient autonomy and to prevent non-beneficial interventions. These failures have led to serious consequences, where patients are deprived of the opportunity to make informed decisions regarding resuscitation. Why legalization? To change the hospital culture, reform hospital policies on DNR discussions, mandate over provider communication skills training, use of financial things, and to cover the large gap between the rich and the poor, and to prevent any exploitation due to potential conflicts of interest and the elderly by their families. Therefore, Team A is for the statement.
Thank you, Team A. I would request Team D to go ahead with the statement.
I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
Language is capable of being understood in more than one way. To minimize ambiguity, the people in the conversation should be competent, knowledgeable, and have the skills to understand each other. But in India, are we in the stage where communication gap between doctors and patients is small enough that the finality of passive euthanasia can be understood by both parties? I don't think so. Article 21 of the Constitution of India supports the right to live, but not the right to die. And currently, if DNR would be upheld, the doctors would be liable to abetment of suicide and the planning of death before its natural occurrence, both which are punishable offenses in India. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare made that decision clear in Common Cause Union of India in 2018, where they said that suffering is subjective and cannot be quantified. An individual may wish to end their life at the current point in the time, but it might be a transient state of depression, which can be managed by good psychiatric care. In the pillars of autonomy, in the pillars of ethics, autonomy is outweighed by non-malevolence and beneficence. But DNR would disrupt this balance, as the Hippocratic Oath is against the voluntary killing of patients. It is complex to assess the existential quality of life, but before we can talk about providing something as final and irreversible as death on a commercial scale, a lot of other conversations need to be had first. To name a few: good psychiatric care, education, and protective laws. Thank you. With this, I rest my case.
Thanks a lot, Team D. So now it is a time where judges will ask you all questions. So I hand it over to the judges.
That was a really nice discussion. The conclusions were great. The opening was great. And I liked how the comparisons were made. So yes, DNR is definitely a conflict between autonomy and beneficence or our Hippocratic Oath. So those are really good points. Both the teams have done a very good job. In fact, just a small pointer: if you want to, if any of you have watched House MD, I suggest you watch this episode, in which there's a specific episode only dedicated to DNR. It's a lovely episode, and I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but you should watch it, and watch it till the end, because you learn a lot about human emotions at the end also towards it. So that's a really interesting thing, how a person wanted DNR and then he didn't get it. And anyways, so you should watch it and form your own opinions at the end of it. My question to both the teams: there are certain religious groups and ethnic or cultural groups that have this belief that everything happens at its own course, and if it's God's will, um, it will happen or it won't happen. I mean, it's God's will, so we leave everything in His hands. So we do not want any human intervention. Now, when it comes to a child, okay, there are very ambiguous laws when it comes to children giving a DNR or not giving a DNR. So definitely, they are caretakers, or their parents are, the people who are responsible to take decisions. Now, what do you think if in this case a child comes to you who suddenly collapse, and probably you have to give a CPR, but the parents say no, and probably the child is of an age group of 4 to 8 years old. So I would want to know how both the teams would approach this situation. We have to take into account all different kinds of situations. So how would you approach this situation is what I would like to know.
Thank you for the question, ma'am. So it's indeed a very, very interesting question, which we were also discussing.
Excuse me,
when,
sir. Tell your team name before you start.
Yeah. So I'm really sorry for missing out on that. So I'm from Team A, and it's a really interesting question which we were discussing while forming our thought as well. And the one thing that I feel is a bottom line solution to such a complicated situation is that there are so many other situations as well where the rights of people who have not, children who have not reached 18 are actually practiced by or executed by their parents, right? So their parents or their guardians. So I believe if we don't get into the intricacies of DNR as a separate thing, but see the whole picture on why certain laws are implemented in such a way that in case of a minor, their parent or their guardian executes the right, would give us an easier way out to handle this situation. And I believe that the Indian Constitution and the Indian laws are formed after a lot of discussion and debates. So there, it has also been taken into account that yes, the parent or the guardian would take the right and the best decision for the minor. With this, I would let my teammate Harshita also add her points to the answer.
Yeah, I would also like to know what, according to you, should be an age limit where a child can decide what he or she could, do for his or her own life. Where, I mean, how do we decide that?
If I may answer this question, I think that this criteria should not be based solely on age. I think it requires a lot of.
Tell your team name once so that the judges are aware.
Sorry, I'm speaking from Team D. I was speaking against the motion. I think to answer this question, more than age, it requires there is like your chronological age and your mental age. So I think there has to be like, it shouldn't be which age under which one should, or above which one should be able to make a decision for themselves. It should be that person should undergo some evaluation for which there needs to be availability of such services. If they're able to understand what is going on, what is being presented to them, what the circumstances are based on what they decide, I think a lot of those factors should come into play. And also, in relation to your first question, where if a child does come in this case and the parents are not giving consent, there is a difference between withholding treatment and withdrawing it. And in this case, when there are essential things which are not invasive in nature, I think that it should not be withheld. I think that is currently also the practice that is followed in emergency situations where non-invasive procedures can be happen, but certain procedures do require consent of the guardians.
Yeah, for example,
right?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Would
please
it be all
continue.
right?
So I just wanted to clarify on this. So what you're trying to say is you do not want a generic set of rules that is applicable to everyone, but everyone should be evaluated for certain like have a certain criteria on which this entire decision is based on.
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, would it be all right for me to add a couple of statements?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, as you mentioned, there are a couple of religions that do say that, a natural way to die would be a better way. and they have their own things. So the first comment I would like to make about that is when we make any laws in
Could you
hello.
just tell your team name before you start?
Yes, my apologies. I'm speaking from Team A, and I'm for the motion. India, as a secular country, we have many religions under us, and to protect the sanctity and rights of each, any law that we pass would be holistic and would thus be inclusive. When it comes to age or language as a barrier, I would like to say that a lot of guidelines that have been proposed is something that we look into a lot of issues into, just as Team D had mentioned. And the reason why we are pushing for legalization is if this law is thus violated, is there a way for you to be protected against it? A case in point would be to take where certain countries, they ask people to carry around a sticker or something in their wallet which says whether they would like a DNR or not. And when you find that sticker and you still apply DNR on that person, and the person's life is continued, but thus it is the quality of life is hampered, are we doing the right thing? India has something of a very paternalistic approach when it comes to medicine, where we believe as doctors, we have, because we've studied so much, we're entitled to override a patient's autonomy. And we can thus say that this is what is best for the patient. But we must keep in mind that the patient is also an individual, and the interest of the state is not always in the interest of the patient. And thus, we should allow them to protect their own right. And with respect to guardians choosing for their child, I think in times of emergency, the where there is a conflict that does rise, there is always the thing where if the patient and the healthcare provider does actually get into a conflict, we always have the institutional board of bioethics that does come into picture, which sees this from a completely outsider's perspective and does takes a decision onto it. And there are numerous case precedents in the Supreme Court and High Courts where they have said that yes, DNR can be instated or no, it can't be instated. So I think more than anything, it depends on situation, and thus the guidelines that are formed by the Supreme Court or any other societies of anesthesiologists or emergency medicine practitioners do take in mind this. And all we're trying to do right now is protect those guidelines and protect their rights. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so I would like to add some points as well. So for the child case, I would like to suggest that the understanding of patients' parents should also be taken in consideration, that how much do they know about the illness the child is suffering from, and how much benefit the procedure we are going to perform offers to the children. That is a major aspect. Also, as my teammate told, that some procedures are to be conducted and are practiced, and the others need guardians' permission. So considering the total situation, patients, parents' understanding, and doctors' way of explaining them to that, the whole situation will be shaped in that way. Also about the case that my opponent presented, that again I state that CPR is not 100% efficient, and it's not going to save every patient it is applied on. And we are not considering the other options that are presented to the patients in present situation, and that is the living will, where patient's autonomy is considered, and that too in the hospital premises, with explanation of the patient's situation to him or her, and consideration of their choices or expenses or social norms, without the doctor's beneficence factor being affected. So that also needs to be considered in this situation. Apart from the fact, there is also a scale of suffering, which as we stated, is ambiguous, which need to be explained to the patient, that is his suffering really at a verge that they should end their life, and that what other steps should the medical fraternity, what other steps that medical fraternity are going to take for their benefit in consideration of this aspect. So that is all.
Time is up, guys.
Thank you so much. Nidhi ma'am, would you like to take it ahead?
Ma'am, just last statement.
No, I'm okay. Most of the points are covered. I'm just listening to all the points, so you can go ahead and make your point, Ushin. Ushin, you can go ahead and make your point.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So a few things that were brought up here that I would like to draw your attention again to. Number one, that DNR is being almost equated to CPR, which it is not. If you see the whole process of resuscitation, there are several other aspects except for CPR. Number two, that while it is almost idealistic to have a personalized approach and to consider each person, whether he's capable or not capable of signing a DNR or not, and then going ahead, I would like to put forward the question that is it possible in a resource limited setting like ours, number one, and number two.
So cute.
And number two is that when situations are at an emergency, can then such long processes of personalized evaluation be taken care of? Is something that I would like my worthy opponents to ponder upon, and back to the moderators for the Q&A. Thank you.
So thank you, Team A and Team D. That was a really nice argument. So now we would, since the first round was not conducted in the same way as the other rounds, we feel it is fair to conduct a rebout. In this, we will have both the teams giving their opening statements. We will have the rebuttal round, and then we will have the closing statements. The judges' questions would not be repeated in this round. So I would request both the judges to give the marks again according to their statements, as well as the question and answer round. But the question and answers asked by you wouldn't be done again. So those marks stay the same. So I would request Afan to set the timings, and I would request Team C and B to be ready with their opening and closing statements. So the topic for their debate is eugenics. Should humans interfere with natural selection? Team C is against the topic and Team B is for the topic. And I would request Team B to go ahead and start with their opening statement. And Arfan, please go ahead and check for the timer.
Yeah. If they start, I'll start.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, shall I start?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, humans should interfere in the natural selection provided there are strict laws regulating it and it is medically necessary. The difference between those embracing and criticizing the term is merely expressed in where we all draw a boundary between the kinds of eugenic practices we allow. All human societies engage in a variety of practices that are both widely accepted and plainly eugenic. For example, in the West, most pregnant women test for disorders such as Down syndrome, Huntington's disease, and cystic fibrosis. Many people choose to terminate pregnancies that are likely to result in any kind of genetic disorder or disability. It's not about eliminating the minorities from the society as it was done in the earlier eugenics, but it is more concerned on the fact that when we as humans have the right for chance for betterment of the human life by decreasing the risk of congenital abnormalities and providing humans with the option of selecting what all they desire to have in their child, and why not support this motion by being bound to ethics and legal issues and creating some boundaries for the same. Here, we are not asking for socially eradicating the weaker sections of the society. Rather, we are focusing on empowering by giving them the choices. Eugenics somewhere also ensure that everyone lives an optimal life that is free from disability. This will also play a part in decreasing the disability rate, morbidity rate, and mortality rate, which will ultimately lead to a better health of society. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Next team, please go ahead with the opening statement.
So eugenics is the science of using artificial selection to improve genetic features of the population. So the thought of, having the ability to modify a genetic markup of the population to ensure specific breeds to propagate, it ethically crosses a lot of boundaries and has prevented this idea from going into worldwide effect. One of the most important arguments against eugenics is the loss of genetic diversity because of inbreeding depression, which occurs as a result of loss of genetic variation. Contemporary eugenic policies propose to permanently and artificially disrupt millions of years of
human evolution, which in turn end up having far-reaching implications which have negative effects on immunity and species resilience. Also, we need to keep in mind with great power comes great responsibilities. And even with the best of intentions, we can see from incidents like the
Time is
Holocaust,
up.
where this went south. So as of now, we do not have the responsibility that we require, and hence humans should not be allowed to interfere with natural selection. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Team C. So now Team C will be asking questions to Team B. Team C, please go ahead.
So my question would be, like you did mention in your statement that yes, there need to be regulations. So what I want to ask is, how would we ensure that there are regulations that are free from bias? Because end of the day, it's still going to be people who are forming those regulations. So how can we ensure that be free from bias?
Okay, I would like to take this question. Thank you so much. Number one, the regulations could be in a similar manner as that of the abortion laws. Number two, we've also time and again emphasized on the fact that we support interference of humans in the natural selection process only if it is deemed medically necessary. That is in cases of probable congenital anomalies. So that completely does away with the entire concept of biasness, because we are not taking in consideration any subjective desirable traits. And thirdly, another to answer your question and to sum it up, we could what I would like to present is that the policies and the regulations could be looked after by a lot of like multiple parties. One of them could be the medical board, the second could be the judiciary, and the third could be the people themselves. Thank you.
I would like to ask them a question. Eugenics at its very core is not about medical necessity at all. Eugenics means that we are artificially altering something and making it, in our perspective, something better. How would you counter that? You are arguing that you will only have the use of eugenics when it is medically necessary. But at its core, that's not what eugenics actually is.
Okay, definitely that.
Excuse me. You have 10 more seconds. So I would urge you to answer your question within 10 seconds.
Okay, so the concept that you gave is that of the older concept of eugenics. The new liberal concept of eugenics supports betterment of the human species in terms that it does away or it prevents any sort of congenital anomalies. For example, CRISPR technology could be used, and that is a part of eugenics. Thank you.
Is the next team ready to ask the questions to the against team?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our question is like, how do you plan to minimize the risk of congenital diseases like cystic fibrosis or Tay-Sachs disease, if you are saying that eugenics cannot be one of the way for that?
Like we mentioned, eugenics is not, when you talk about abortions or you talk about making a conscious choice to not pursue a pregnancy or to allow screening for congenital disorders, that gives a person an information about what is going to come into their life. That has already taken place through the course of evolution, through their family history, is going to happen. They choose whether to pursue it or not. Whereas eugenics will say that we will have a clean slate of humans where there will be no congenital diseases, there will be no scope of diseases, which we now will counter with the fact that down the line is actually detrimental to human evolution and to our race. How? Because it will have the reduced resilience for our species. There will be reduced immunity down the line from various diseases, various viral mutations that might occur in the current, like we saw in the pandemic. This was something that we never saw. And now it was very difficult for us to deal with. So there is a difference between what you are arguing and what we are arguing against. That will be my counter.
Do we have time left?
You have 35 seconds, so if the question is small, it'd be good.
Okay. So to counter your argument, nowhere in the motion has it been mentioned that eugenics cannot be used for the betterment. What you are confusing out here is the proper use of this technique with that of the misuse of the technique. What you are debating on is based off a very old concept of eugenics. So what we are promoting out here is not coercion but free choice, and what you are debating upon is implications of a coercion, of a imposing something, but that is completely against what the motion today here is about, and it is completely against how we as the proposition place the motion.
The conclusion by the FOR team. Are you ready?
It seems that the opposition out here is missing out on the very basic point that they are they're simply blurring the line between the proper use and the misuse of this technique. What the opposition needs to understand here today is that the age-old definition of eugenics is worlds apart from the liberal definition of eugenics that we are supporting here today. We are not basing our eugenics based on racial and political ideologies or racial and political discrimination. However, what we are supporting today is the eugenics made for the betterment, for the change, for the growth of the humankind. CRISPR, IVF, genetic therapy, genetic prenatal genetic diagnosis, these are all forms of eugenics. What happened in the past, what happened during the World War II, definitely were unfortunate events, but simply using that as your gold standard argument to completely disregard the possibilities of eugenics, especially if eugenics is being regulated by a strict set of laws, is just regression of evolution. You need to understand is that we are not talking about completely disrupting the process of natural selection. However, what we are emphasizing on is giving the vulnerable people enough power, or giving the vulnerable people a fair chance to even stand in this process. And that is exactly why humans should interfere in the process of natural selection, provided there are strict laws governing it and there is a medical need to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, team.
I would can Team C reply to that?
No, it is a conclusion statement right now. So Team C cannot reply. Go ahead and give your conclusion statements. Team C, please go ahead.
The opposition says that we're deviating from the topic, but actually, eugenicists worldwide believe that they could perfect human beings and eliminate so-called social evils, which is still the basis of this science. But who would determine what is an evil and what isn't? What is superior and what isn't? Ladies and gentlemen, in a world riddled with racism, greed, personal and political agendas, where big pharma and corporates control how healthcare is accessed, we cannot deny that eugenics is susceptible to abuse, because genetic selection would be determined by whichever group that has the political power at that time, and even the International Bioethics Society sides with us on this front. I'd also like to mention that there are no laws regulating eugenics as of now, as opposed to what the team has mentioned. Questions like how we would possibly regulate this and keep all the biases away are unanswered, and the implications for those who cannot or do not want to access this technologies are still unanswered, along with the emergence of various health concerns, reduction in immunity, which is a very real possibility. In conclusion, are we shaping the way to a more healthy and sustainable society, or just playing God?
Thank you so much, Team C. So right now we're done with all the rounds, all the bouts of the debate. So we'll be waiting for the final scores to come. I would request you all to wait for 5 minutes or more. And in the meantime, I would request Somaya to go ahead because I think Henson ma'am would be leaving our debate right now. So Somaya, could you please go ahead?
Yes, Hansel ma'am has some emergency, and in her position we have another judge for the finals. So she has sent us the marks and her nominees for the best speaker as well. I would again like to thank Dr. Hansel for taking out her precious time and joining us all the way from the UK. Thank you so much, ma'am, and please give us your feedback about how was your experience.
I'm really grateful that you considered me, for this privilege, in fact, because it is really nice and very enriching to be, part of such a conversation. where you get to hear so many, not only it's not just a share of information, but the entire experience is so enriching because you learn so many things every day. And medicine is constantly evolving. We have to evolve with it, definitely, but at the same time, not lose ourselves in it. So I think bioethics, again, you cannot just follow it by the book. It's what you practice every day, and it should be, as doctors, it should be your patient above everything else. So no matter how many debates you do, or how you score in your bioethics exams, ultimately it's about how you deal with your patients, between you and your patient. Yeah. And though I am here, and I am in fact from the Department of Plastic Surgery doing my residency here, it is definitely difficult even for surgeons, because we come across these scenarios every day. So you don't really have to be a bioethicist. You just have to be someone who takes care of a patient. So be it a caregiver or be it a doctor, you ultimately are taking care of someone who needs you. So don't ever forget that. And all the best, and you guys rock.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you
Han.
so much.
Yes, Sumaya, please go ahead.
No, Ashna, you continue. It's fine.
Thanks a lot, Hansel ma'am, for your kind words, and I'm really, really appreciative of your presence. And also, I'm quite sure that all the participants over here, as well as all of us, have learned a lot from your opinions as well as your dialogues, which you have provided to us, as well as your feedbacks. Thanks a lot, ma'am. And I would really, really thank you for removing time and being here.
Thank you so much, guys. See you soon. And hopefully, if there's anything I can help you out with, you can always stay in touch. All the best for the rest of the show.
Just 2 to 3 more minutes, and we will be giving you all the final results. In the meanwhile, I would request Samaya to introduce our new judge alongside ma'am. So please go ahead, Samaya.
Yeah. Just a moment. Our judges for the final are Dr. Nidhi Ma'am and Dr. Mikhail Merchant. Dr. Mikhail Merchant is a general surgery trainee in London who has passed his exam for membership of Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, UK. He is currently pursuing his master's in laparoscopic surgery from Queen Mary University, London, and Barts Health, NHS, and has gotten his certification in bioethics and human rights from UNESCO. He is an academic and clinical researcher and loves tutoring MBBS students in surgery and other allied subjects. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today at such a short notice. We are really honored to have you here, and please could you go ahead and speak a few words?
All right. Hello, everyone. A very good day to you. Good evening, good afternoon. I believe everyone's from India, so good evening to all. And it's an honor for me to be here and be a part of this debate. And yeah, so I'm going to be taking things forward here. And please don't call me sir. I mean, you can just call me Mikhail as well, because like we all are students and we stay students for life. And bioethics is something which is continuously evolving. And with you all, I'm sure that I'm also going to learn a lot from you guys as well during this debate. So thank you so much for having me and looking forward to taking this forward.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your words. So now the time has come to announce the results. But before that, I would really, really appreciate all the organizations who are over here and the participants who have prepared really, really nice speeches. And I really got to learn a lot. And just by seeing the debate you all were having, I really had so much fun. So I understood myself that I have a long way in bioethics and I also need to learn a lot. So thanks all once again. So before I announce the result, I would like to mention one thing that even after all the glitches we had, and I'm really sorry for all the glitches, the scores for all the teams are really, really close, and the first and the second team is pretty close. And all the rest of the teams as well are very close. They are just by a margin of around 3 to 4 marks that people have missed the first and the second spot. So I'm really happy for that. So without further delay, I would like to announce that Team A has scored 79 marks and has secured the first position. And Team C has secured 73 marks and has secured the second position. So the final round is going to be between Team A and C. Congratulations to all of y'all. Y'all have 10 minutes to prepare for the same. And by the help of a coin, we would be deciding for or against for the team. So any volunteers from Team A or C? Yes, I can see Team C.
May I just pose one question before we start with the coin toss?
Yes, sure.
Can you please elaborate on the topic? We feel that it's a little bit too vague for us to sort of do background research on. Could you please tell us what are your expectations from this topic?
Would it be all right for me to say something?
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering if nothing could be said, because as my opponent raised the point that it's pretty vague to actually do research on the topic. I believe it would make for a more interesting debate when we aren't like so well prepared, so that we know, all the different outcomes and possibilities. So if it is all right with Team C, I would vote against it. Sorry, Team C.
In the spirit of the debate, I would like to counter that. I feel like legalization and regulation, when you talk about regulation, that means it's already legal and you want to regulate it. So that is a huge, I feel like a difference factor when it comes to researching for and against. So if just that could be clarified, that would be great.
All right, I'm sorry if I'm barging in. I can make things a little simple for you all. So just to concise the topic, which will make it a little bit easier for you guys to research for or against the topic. So when you say intellectual property, it's basically trademark, copyrights, trade secrets, and more importantly, when it applies to medicine, it's patents. So in short, patents can be to drugs or new techniques which have been developed. So, if it makes it easier for you all, you can basically look upon as to, are you guys for patenting drugs and new techniques, or are you against patenting these drugs and techniques? So patents is a very important factor when it comes to intellectual property rights of any person or administration. So maybe that should make it easier for you guys to decide.
That was all that I needed to know. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. So any volunteers for choosing heads or tails? Team C and A. Okay. If not, then I would
I'll go
request.
with the. Okay, I'll go
Okay,
ahead with
okay. Go ahead. Team A, go ahead.
Team
Choose.
A goes ahead with heads.
Heads, okay. Arfan?
I'll be flipping it now.
Yep.
So it's heads.
Team A, you get to choose whether you want to be for or against the topic.
Okay, so we'll go against.
Okay. So team C is for the topic, and you guys have 10 minutes to prepare for the same.
Okay, just write on the topic and the team which is for and against.
Yes,
So
I will do that.
I'll see you all in 10 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Last 2 minutes remaining.
Hello, everyone.
Hello guys, it is time to start again. So I would request all of you all to switch on your cameras so that we know that you all are here. And I'm pretty sure that Team A and C are really well prepared now by now and in a mood to again argue. Team C, both the members are here?
Yes.
Okay, I would also request both the judges to confirm their presence.
Yes, I'm here.
Sir? Mikhail, sir? If you are here, please reply with a yes in the chat box, or you can also unmute and reply. So are you here? So I would like to wish both the teams best of luck. And I wish that the best wins. And also an update if you all have not read the groups. So we're having 3 best speakers right now, which will be announced at the end of the event. So I think we'll have to wait for Mikhail, sir. So we'll just wait for 2 to 3 minutes more. Till then, I just hope you guys are really well prepared and charged to debate. Okay, so Mikhail sir is having certain connectivity issues and he will be joining us within 2 minutes. Sir, are you there here? Yes, ma'am, we're starting. Mikhail sir, are you there here?
Yes, am I audible now?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank
So sorry,
Okay.
there were some
That's
Wi-Fi
all right,
issues.
sir.
Yeah, please.
So this is the final round, the finale for Locked Heads debate competition. And the topic for the final finale round is intellectual property rights. Should they be legalized and regulated? Team C is going for it and Team A is going against it. Now, before we start with the round, I would like Arfan to go ahead with and reiterate all the criteria for judgment as well as the rules. Arfan?
So the judging criteria is judges are requested to maintain a scorecard for each team and score the team accordingly as per this marking scheme. Criteria is 10 marks each for the points I'm going to say. So total 5 points are there, therefore 50 points. First one is content. Second one is questions asked and answered during the rebuttal round. Third, adherence to the rules. Fourth, relevance to the topic. Fifth, answers to the judges' questions. Judges may offer constructive feedback, commenting on the logical flaws, insufficient evidence, or arguments that the debaters may have overlooked. I shall pass this on to Asma.
Okay, thanks a lot, Arfan. So I'll be talking about the rules which you all have to keep in mind while debating, as well as the judges while giving them marks. The judging criteria has been announced by my co-host. So the competing teams have to keep their camera on during their turn, and failure to do so will result in deduction of marks. You cannot at any point in time reveal the organization's name you are representing. Also, if in terms of any discrepancies, the judges as well as the hosts decisions will be the final, and the participants should not question the same. If you have any doubts regarding the same, or you want to raise an issue regarding the same, you can always go ahead and contact us. And there won't be any extra time given to any speaker during this finale round. As soon as the time is over, the participants have to stop speaking at that moment itself. So with these basic rules, we can start with the debate. So team C is for the topic and team A is against. I would request team C to go forward with the opening statement.
If team C person is ready and they start speaking, I'll start the timer.
All right. Okay. In the modern era, the tremendous increase in international property applications witnessed in recent years reflects the growing importance of technology and innovation in the global economy as well as our daily lives. Intellectual property can be defined as a group of intangible assets that are owned by any individual person or an institution. Intellectual property contributes significantly to our national and state economies. Dozens of industries across our economies rely on adequate enforcement of their patents, trademarks, and copyrights, while consumers use intellectual property to ensure that they're purchasing safe, guaranteed products. We believe that intellectual property rights are worth protecting for the following reasons. Intellectual property creates and supports high-paying jobs, drives economic growth and competitiveness, helps generate breakthrough solutions for global challenges, encourages innovation and rewards entrepreneurs, and also protects consumers and families.
Your time is up, Team C. Yeah. Thank you, Team C. I would request Team A to go forward with their opening statement.
All right, so you'll start the timer when I start talking, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Readings from Team A. I would like to start by saying nothing comes from nothing, and existing laws aren't adapted to the current environment because regulation is not focused on a physical thing, but rather the intangible assets, as my opponent has stated. IPC is a group of collective terms which does include trademarks, copyrights, patents, etc. And thus, because it's not subversive of all of them, it can be culturally damaging and an easily weaponized notion. Because when we go to law about this and to court, we don't tell someone that you've done a copyright infringement, rather you say you've done a theft of property, which is very problematic. With that being said, I would also like to bring up the part where we have historical amnesia. And to bring this case into point, I would like to talk about how Johnson & Johnson tried to patent turmeric for medical uses and by using them in their band-aids, which has been done in India for a very, very long time. So for that being said, is intellectual property the same as the kind of property is tangible? And to that query, we can add, if it is it an appropriate term for the widely disparate areas of laws encompasses? The answer to all of this is no.
Okay, thanks a lot, Team A. So now I would request Team A to ask questions to Team C.
Thank you, Team A, for thank you, Team C, for presenting your view for it. So I would request you to answer the questions in short, say 15 to 30 seconds, so that we can discuss a little more. So you said that intellectual property rights do encourage innovation, but as my fellow teammate also pointed out, that it also creates space for theft and copying of ideas and disrespect. So do you feel that innovation should be measured in terms of just a copyright or just a patent, not appreciated elsewhere? And how can you balance this need for innovation and the theft, copying, or robbery that happens for that so-called acknowledgement that you mentioned?
Right. Thank you for the question. So to answer your question, yes, there is scope for theft and property theft, copyright infringement, all of these, but that is exactly why we're saying that these rights need to exist and need to be regulated and legalized, so that we can prevent that from happening and people who are responsible for said innovation get the due credit for it, so that they are rewarded accordingly for their innovation or patent or copyright. That is the whole point of having regulations and legislations for the same, which is what we're saying should exist, that these intellectual property rights should be protected, and there should be laws that ensure that the people responsible for them are the ones who are getting credit, so that it does not stop other people from coming up with new innovations as well, and to also prevent intellectual property theft, as mentioned.
Thank you for the answer. And I would like to bring forward
Please go ahead, Ocean.
No, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. You have 14 seconds left. So if you think they can answer your question within 14 seconds, you can go ahead, or you can go 15 seconds.
I'll just say a few
Yes, sir, you can go ahead.
Words in what was said. So as far as acknowledging creativity and intellect is concerned, intellectual property rights are not the only way. Even research is acknowledged by Nobel Prizes. Creating intellectual property rights and copyrights is making corporates enter into this competition of innovation and intellect, which we do not support. Thank you.
Okay. The next team, please go ahead with your question. 1 second. Ocean, please switch on your camera. That is a rule. Ocean, if you're there and you can hear me, please switch on your camera. Yes. Go ahead.
So my question is, so if your stance is that these intellectual property rights should not exist or should not be legalized, then how would you prevent people who have created or come up with an innovation or a necessary solution, and if it's going to be much easier for someone else to profit off of it, like you said, the big companies that are entering in, corporates entering in, it would be much easier for them to exploit and profit off of somebody else's intellectual property if they didn't have the rights to protect them. So what would your solution be to that?
Okay, so one small thing that I'd like to suggest here is that please try to understand that acknowledging the whole intellect and protecting it from being marketed are two separate things, and they need to be considered separately. You need to prioritize what needs to be done. And as far as marketing is concerned, you must know that patent and copyright laws have a lot of limitations, and a lot of medical research cannot be copyrighted or patented, but can be marketed by corporates in order to make money. So please try to understand the difference between the two and the gap that we need to address. Over to Harshita to add a few points to the answer.
Yeah, so as Ocean was mentioning, something that we do speak about with patents or copyrights or anything else is the frivolity of it. Like where you're trying to save a life-saving drug from reaching the poorer countries just because they don't have a patent or something. So are you saying that that is not allowed? We're trying to look at those aspects of it. And Also, when we look at this, companies collect a lot of data, right? Even Google or anything. We see how our search engines are modified regularly. So they have a potential to misuse this data, which would again be on the outskirts of the laws and regulations that are being proposed by what you're saying. And we need to ask the question, who made these laws? It's made by the people in power. And why was it made? So that it can be monetized. And also, who is it actually protecting? It's not the general public who is actually benefiting out of it, because these are laws made by corporate sectors.
Your time is up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thanks a lot. So now we would like to go ahead with the conclusion statements. Team C, please go ahead with your statement.
Please begin the timer as I start speaking.
Yes.
For many businesses, intellectual property protects more than just an idea or a concept. It protects genuine business assets that may be integral to the core services of the business and the overall long-term viability. It encourages publication, distribution, and disclosure of the creation rather than keeping it a secret. How will we manufacture or market a product when the product is not protected? If I make an idea, if I don't get the credit, if I don't get recognized, how will I put it out in the world? And it is not our responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the laws to see whether or not a product reaches a certain country when it's in need. It's the responsibility of the government and the stakeholders involved. Strong intellectual property rights protects consumers and protects families in a way that it helps them educated about their safety, their reliability, and the effectiveness of their purchases. Nearly all of the 300 products on the WHO's essential drug list, which are critical to saving lives around the globe, come from these laws. Do you think they would still continue to produce them if they were not protected?
Team C, your time is up. Okay. Thanks a lot for your statement. So now I would like Team A to go with their closing statement. Team A.
So my worthy opponents have given a lot in the favor of having intellectual property rights. But again and again, I will reiterate the same point, that intellectual property rights are not made with the sole objective of acknowledging somebody's work or somebody's intellect. There are so many other aspects of it that you need to understand. And as far as acknowledgement is concerned, reiterating the example I stated before, Nobel Prize is one such way where innovation and creativity, and for that matter, in all fields of life, is acknowledged. The fact of making intellect a property is making it subject to being marketed, incorporated, and thus increasing the scope of illegal or unethical practices. And today, discussing bioethics, it is essential to understand and to balance out the harm and the benefit of doing the same. While acknowledgement is needed and can be provided by other ways, why to leave the scope to create intellectual property rights to provide that acknowledgement, which in turn would increase the scope for other
your time is up.
unethical practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Team A. So now we come to the final part, which is the judges' question. I would request the judges to go ahead with their questions for either of the teams or for both of them.
I think let ma'am go ahead first, and I'll go after her.
Okay. Ma'am, please go ahead.
So actually, probably I think there was some issue with Team A. They did not understood the topic very well, but that the scores will tell. But the question for the team is, both the teams actually is that what is the solution of to come out of this intellectual property rights? Like what is the way forward? And can you suggest something which has been adopted recently related to that? Like one team is saying that there should not be something like IPR, nothing like that should exist. Another team is saying no, it should exist and it should be legalized and regulated. So what is the way forward? Like what legalization and what regulation would you recommend for IPR or patents? or any solution for that? Because there is no absolute yes or no. There is always a midway, or there's always a solution that we have to take. So any comments?
Ma'am, one thing that has been done in the pharmaceutical industry is being done in the
Ma'am.
pharmaceutical industry is.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could you just please say your team name before you start?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm Srishti from Team C. I was talking about how something that is already being done in the pharmaceutical industry is a company that comes up with a medicine, I think has a patent for about 10 years, after which the idea and the formulations of these medicines and drugs can be used by other companies or the government to make said drug and, sell it at a cheaper price and make it more accessible to the public. That I believe can be an effective solution if implemented across all platforms. Say some innovation has been done, which, like our competitors mentioned, is not accessible to a country in need. After a certain period, like I already said, that it is not the responsibility of said company to make it available in those regions, but the responsibility of stakeholders involved for it to make available in their own countries, for it to make it accessible for their population. So what they can do is have a bilateral agreement with these companies and formulate a solution so that these companies can somehow derive profit for a certain period of time for their product, and then they can either have the agreement to lower their prices to make it available to majority of the population, or sell the formulation so that the government can do it and manufacture it on their own. Thank you.
Thank you, Team C. Any comments, Team A, on how would you like to protect innovation in the pharma industry if IPR doesn't exist? Any plans on that? For that?
Ma'am, I'll begin and then I'll let my teammate add to it. So as far as protecting innovation, especially in terms of the pharma industry is concerned, ma'am, what we have identified the problem is that patenting, copywriting brings into account marketing and a mass production. A person who is involved in healthcare and who is working in the laboratory on the animal or doing human studies, creating drugs and all, would not have the knowledge of mass production. So what we believe is that the better way out of it is to acknowledge the innovation separately and then looking forward to how it can be mass produced. Now, as far as acknowledging innovation separately is concerned, there are n number of examples where medical associations, organizations, have their own set criteria on how to judge or compare innovation and then reward it. We believe such a system is more sustainable and more encouraging and would invite less of corruption or less of theft or less of malpractices. Because, ma'am, this is the hard truth of the world that as soon as money comes into play, we tend to forget our ethical boundaries and then things become more messy. Therefore, if the two can be separated out, where the production of money or marketing or mass production is one aspect of it, and acknowledging the innovation is a second aspect of it, that might be a more practical and a better way to reduce illegal practices, reduce the disrespect of intellect or disrespect of innovation due to copying, and yet produce that and yet share that innovation with the rest of the world. With this, I'll let Harshita add whatever she wishes to do.
Ma'am, I think everybody who has spoken before me has laid down their points really well. When we're talking about legislation, the most important thing about legislation, I believe, is the aftermath of legislation. Because whenever we are doing about legislation, we are looking at who we're protecting and why we're protecting them. We aren't saying that we aren't supposed to protect the rights and we're not supposed to acknowledge the efforts or regulate it. But we're saying by posing certain regulations on it, we're hampering how well it can be delivered, because under these particular rights of intellectual property rights comes the right to distribute, comes the right to also compromise on it. And when that actually does happen, it is very evident that a lot of times the people who really need it or the people who really want it might not get it. I mean, if we're diverging a bit from away from pharmaceutical companies and we're looking at older things, companies like large pharmaceutical companies have a lot of people under them that are constantly working on something or the other, and they have the necessary resources to go and file a patent. But somebody like who's a general public who might have actually discovered something new might not have the exact same resources to protect it and also file for it. A case that I'd like to bring into point is something somebody told me. It's about how they're constantly and this is an actual scenario that has happened in India, where they're constantly finding out new microorganisms or new drugs, but it's being sold to a higher company for them to actually make profit initially, and then it's being redistributed. So the actual credits are not going to the person who's actually innovating, but to somebody who actually knows how to play the market well. And that's why we're saying that legalizing this might actually destroy the scope for those who are actually innovating and actually in the process, rather than those who are monetizing on it and in the marketplace. Thank you.
Team A, the time is up, so I would request Sir to go ahead. And I think Team C has raised their hand. So within 30 seconds, if you could summarize what you would want to say, Team C.
Do I have the judges' permission to add or counter?
Judges?
Yes, but try being brief, because I think there will be questions from another judge also.
Absolutely, ma'am. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Number one, the other team puts up the fact that there exists corruption, theft, and stealing that would still exist if we do not have laws. In fact, it would not even give the common man a chance to patent, and patenting is not that hard. If you argue that the person might not have enough resources to patent and someone else might steal it, that will completely counters your former point. If they do not have the choice to have that property protected by the existence of legislation, how will that work? Secondly, there will be a choice to sell, as you talked about in your last point. If someone wants to sell their innovation, wants to sell their discovery, that's up to them. That does not come under the topic of the debate. How will we coming on? All right, I think I'll sum up here. All right, thank you.
Okay. Sir, please go ahead with your questions.
All right, great. So I've got two separate questions for Team C and Team A. So my first question is to Team C. So you guys are for patents. So patents are like basically these intellectual property rights are expensive if you consider patents. So wouldn't high price of patent protected drugs, like for example, if you see certain biologics like secukinumab are owned by patent is owned by Novartis, which are used for ankylosing spondylitis and all. Within these patented protected high prices cause its inaccessibility to the poor population and create a medical distribution based geographic divide between the rich countries and the poor countries from obtaining the same patent protected drug?
Thank you, sir, for the question. Yes, like you did mention, with the high priced patents, it could potentially cause the inequality of access to the drug. But like my partner did previously mention, it is not the responsibility of the person making the innovation or the discovery to ensure that his or her discovery or innovation is accessible. In fact, it should be the responsibility of said government or stakeholders who should work with this patent holder to ensure accessibility of their drug and work out an agreement between those parties, which again is reinforcing the need for proper regulation and legalization. It's only if we have proper oversight and multiple levels of people overlooking this and have strict, stringent laws that we can combat problems like this and ensure that we can find a solution that works for everybody.
Adding on to my teammates' point, sir, I think this is where the regulation factor of a law comes in. I do agree that when companies have a monopoly over a certain drug or a certain product, it does pose the threat to accessibility. In that case, I think we should group together and have a certain regulation in place that advises them or strongly, suggests them to not have that kind of impact on the population. We saw that. But also, I would like to counter with the fact that these companies who are coming up with these innovation, these medicines, if we do not have these laws in place, maybe these innovations will not occur. The money that goes into research, into development, into manufacturing, into production, into making it accessible, that needs to be brought back. So if the government if the government is willing to invest that kind of money in our own researchers, it sort of incentivizes our own, having seeing that there is an inaccessibility because of this monopoly that the certain company has. The government will be motivated to now invest into research, which our government is not doing on all that background. Thank you.
Okay, great. So my next question is to Team A. So, Team A, so as Team C said that research and development of these drugs and techniques and everything is expensive. So, since you're against patents, considering if companies don't patent these technologies, which means they will probably have to put in that money from their own pockets and from their own company funding. Don't you think this is an expensive thing and this will promote copycat companies from duplicating the same product at no cost at their level? And this would in turn end up demotivating the original company, which ended up spending all their personal funds on this R&D, and which would in turn not motivate them enough to do the same research again in the future?
So thank you so much for your question. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for your question. I would like to start by saying when we do file for a patent, and with my dad having filed for a couple of them, I'm a little familiar with the process. We actually disclose the exact nature of how it was made to the government, and we have monopoly over its protection and the rights for a limited period of time. So when we have actually given it the exact nature, how it works, what are the problems we're addressing, how it's differing, this is knowledge that would be readily made available to all of our competitors in a future setting. So that would also cause a problem then, because the disclosure agreement that they are signing in later on prevents them from actually having any legal repercussions or jurisdiction in that particular matter when another company actually does do it. With you, with the thought that of it being very expensive, yes, it is. Innovation is expensive. Research and development take a lot of money, but we're trying to protect the idea and the expression of the idea over here. And it is not necessary for us to disclose how this came into picture. Sure, they can take our parts apart and they can do it, but without knowing the exact composition, what it's addressing, how it's addressing, and everything, I do not believe that these other companies would, or people would actually be able to do it as much faster as us. We can also take into example the people who've made the telephone. The person who actually got the patent, Alexander Graham Bell, he was only like 2 minutes earlier or something like that, but somebody else invented it much before. So I don't believe that it or actually protects the innovators or discourages anybody else. Innovations will keep going. It's what drives our society forward. It's what drives human nature forward, the act to question and the want for something better in life. So I would like to pass it on to my teammate if he'd like to add on anything.
I think Arshita, you have answered the question very, very well. I don't have a lot to add, but still I would say one more small thing that can be considered and should be given a possibility of is that when it comes to competing companies, we should also take into account that if there is competition between producing companies, discouragement is not the only way. Often in modern life also we see
Hey, your time is up.
companies producing just one statement. Companies producing similar products often tend to target cost and reduce the cost for the same product to make it more available and more accessible. So instead of seeing just the negative side of it, we should also see the positive side that it might make healthcare more accessible to population of our country. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Team
Right,
A and Team C. So, any more questions?
No, it's just this for team A, the second part of my question is not really being clearly answered. Uh, if the companies do spend financially from their own pocket and they don't get anything in return from the patent, it is demotivating. And if you see historically, I like the whole fact about what she said about the telephone. But the fact is that if another company went ahead and produced it before them, what gives him the stimulus to keep making creations in the future? Because some other company just came and took away his profit sales. So in short, it would be definitely demotivating to him. So that's my question.
I think, sir, here I would again like to bring it out that if we try to understand a more open-minded framework where we acknowledge innovation as a separate thing and keep mass production as a separate thing, acknowledging innovation can have frameworks to support research as well. As we know that a lot of research in today's day is being run by grants that are given by national health organizations such as NIH and all. So if that can make research a more practical thing to do and a more doable thing for such companies as well, and can also avoid competition. That is why from the starting we are trying to explain that it's not that an IPR is completely, it's something totally out of the blue. The thing is that what we need is a little bit of more demarcation on the innovative and the corporate aspect of it. And that is what I feel, or we feel as a team, is the better approach towards the same problem. While we try on keep on debating on how to change this law, if such a parallelism is drawn, I believe it can be of help. But obviously, we can differ with opinions. Now, I'd let Harshita add to the answer.
The time is up. So this was the final 1 minute extension we had given. So I'm really sorry, but the time is up and we have to wrap this somewhere. Otherwise, this discussion can go on for hours. So I would request you guys to wait for around 5 minutes before we announce the results. And I really, really would like to congratulate Team A and C to come in the finals. And then after that, prepare such wonderful speeches within 10 minutes time. So claps for you guys, and really enjoyed the debate and also the inputs given by ma'am as well as sir. Thanks a lot for being here. So with that, I would, within like 2 minutes, I think we should be there with the results. So before we get the results, I would like to ask Dr. Mikael, sir, to give us an opinion about this debate competition and how he found the final round of this debate, and give us some opinions on how we could also improve our knowledge for the same.
I think the debate was pretty healthy. Um, Team A did have a little issue understanding certain topics, especially like how ma'am had pointed out. But the rebuttal was okay, was good. And yes, definitely Team C also did well. Yeah, they did have some hiccups and they did have some issues with putting across the topic, the answer clearly. But I think overall it's really good. And I suggest you read up about copyright infringements, patents about it. And not just limited to the medical side, but also in general, about other aspects as well. There you read up about the history and you'll know classically how people have put copyright infringements and how patents have been protected. For a simple example, like Volvo was a company, which was the first company that discovered the three-pointed seat belt. And although they could have made a lot with it, they kept an open patent where all companies could use it, and that's how today all cars which we drive have three-pointed seat belts. Volvo did not profit from it, but they made sure that the safety gets spread out to everybody, and everybody has the right to safety. But ultimately, they did turn out to be uh, the primary people who discovered that, and till date, Volvo is praised for the same. So even though they did not get the financial benefit of creating the three-point seat belt, eventually they did get a name strong enough to say that Volvo deals with safety more than any other car company. So that's just one example. So reading the history helps. And otherwise, I'm really happy with the debate, and I'll hand it over to ma'am to give her opinion on the same.
Nidhi ma'am? Nidhi ma'am, are you there? Well, thanks a lot, sir, for all the words, and definitely we will look up all the things you have asked us to look up and definitely read out all of those things. Thanks a lot once again for removing time from your busy schedule and being here. So, if Nidhi ma'am is available right now, could you please give us a feedback for the same?
Yes. So it was a very good session, and uh,
Okay, I think Nidhi ma'am has disconnected and there are some issues, connectivity issues. So I will try and get her back. But in the meanwhile, I really thank all the organizations for being here up to the end, as well as right from the start. You guys have been really supportive and have um, supported us at each and every step of this event and making this event a success. It wouldn't have been a success without all these organizations and all the speakers over here who made this event really, really fun as well as really nice. So thank you all once again, and we'll try and get back to Nidhi ma'am. And in the meanwhile, we'll just wait for the results. So another 2 minutes, and I think we should have the results. Also, I would take this opportunity here to introduce our bioethics chairperson. So Malvika ma'am, she is the AMSA Bioethics chairperson for the term 22-23, and she's here with us. And she's been really amazing and supportive throughout this event. She's guided us throughout this event, and I'm really thankful to her because we had this. There were a lot of glitches in this event, as well as we had it so last movement. But all my AMSA members over here right now, they have the bioethics unit has really worked hard, and they all have supported all of us together. Like we have worked as a team, and this event has been possible just because of this, because of our chairperson as well as Alia, who is our general secretary for this term, and would not like to miss out Amiri Joshi, who is another EEC officer for this term. She couldn't join us because of some reasons today, but she has been really phenomenal help to all of us. And I think right now Nidhi ma'am is back. So ma'am, over to you.
So I really enjoyed attending this event, and and something that thrilled me a lot was that the topics were so difficult, and and you all gave such good viewpoints for all the topics. It was really very enriching session, and it's so glad to see all of you participating and all of you were speaking very well, very good points put forward. But one thing, I will just like to say regarding the organization of this entire debate, I had some difficulty in judging the teams in the first round. Like the final one was good, but the initial three, because they were so fast and you had to score in so many parameters, that I don't know how to sort this out, but I think you should work on restructuring the way you conducted this debate slightly. The topics were very good. The way it was organized was very well. The scoring pattern was also very good. But somehow, as a judge, I felt that I was struggling for the time. Especially, when you had those, when there were two teams, and then you suddenly move to the next team, and then to the third team. So maybe you can give some 4 or 5 minutes breather for the judge to think and consolidate what the teams have talked. So it was a bit difficult. So maybe I did injustice in scores a bit, but definitely it was like the two teams A and C were very clear winners for me. But if you talk about the exact scores, like scoring the content, scoring the relevance, everything, it might not be perfect because it was difficult to. So that is my only suggestion, that you should work out, organize it slightly. The time management should be more comfortable for judges. Rest, it was very good. It was very good, and my best wishes to all of you. Okay.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. We will definitely keep your suggestions in mind, and we'll definitely work on all of these points which you have given for all the further upcoming events.
So shall we close the session now?
Ashna, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Actually, my phone just switched off, so I am disconnected from WhatsApp. Could you please announce the results?
Okay. The results is Team A got 42, whereas Team C got 45. Though Team C wins.
Team C, congratulations.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
It was really,
almost
inspiring.
You guys had really nice. Yes, Ocean, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying that I was
and
really
also
inspired by the way you guys approached both of your topics, the first one also and this one.
Thanks a lot for your inputs, Ocean. Irfan, also please go ahead and announce the best speakers.
Okay. One second. Okay, the best speakers are Harshita, Ocean, and Shrishti.
Okay.
I hope I
congratulations to all the three of you all.
Yes, Ashna, continue,
So
please.
with this, yes. So thanks a lot, everybody, and congratulations to all the best speakers as well as Team C for winning this competition. Very well deserved, you guys. You guys had a really good argument. So, if any of the judges would like to go ahead and give them some words, the mic is open.
So as I put a comment, I mean, both teams were really good and they were really strong. Both had their pluses, both had their minuses. But looking at this, I'm feeling sad that I missed out on the first initial rounds because I can imagine how talented everyone is over here, and I'm sure everyone here has a very bright future, and all are going to be great doctors and hopefully great bioethicists as well. So I'm glad for what you guys have done, and thank you all the organizers and everybody for having me here. And it was a sheer privilege to listen to everybody, and I got to learn a lot as well. Congratulations, Team C and Team A, because for me, both of you are winners.
Thank you so much, sir. It means a lot coming from you. And especially, I would like to thank both of you as well, because I feel like the questions that you gave us pulled us in the right direction. They forced us to think in a certain way that we might not have incorporated in our arguments before. I do get that the time limit for our speeches were a little short, so we could not get all our points in, but we're glad that this opportunity happened. Thank you so much to the organizers as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for being here and sticking around till the end. And we officially close this event. Also, I would like to announce that the winning team will get 6 months of free Both and Beyond subscription for step 2 and 3. So congratulations for Team C for winning this prize.
We missed documentation photograph.
Oh, yes. Actually, everybody, please switch on your cameras. We'll take one picture if all of you all are there. Arfan or Malvika or someone, please just click pictures.
I shall do it if everyone says yes.
Yes. Go ahead. Click the. I would request everyone to please switch on your cameras. One last picture.
Those whose camera
So
would be
Hansel
off
ma'am
will
is
be tagged on
here.
Instagram.
Take a picture.
How much?
I've taken pictures. If Hansel ma'am is here, I think we can take a picture with her too.
Yes. Hansel ma'am, if you could please switch on your camera.
Yeah, I've taken the pictures.
Thanks a lot for everyone being here. And Handsome ma'am, Team C, the finale was between Team A and C, and Team C won the competition. So I hereby declare the event to be closed, and you guys are all free to leave. That's all right, ma'am.